The Arch Gaming Network is proud to bring you this board game review. Now here's your host, Sean Smith.
Hello and thank you for stopping by. Today we are taking a look at Rick and Morty Anatomy Park, which was designed by Matt Hyra and Corey Jones and published by Cryptozoic. Now before we get started, I wanted to point out that most of the games, if not pretty much all of them, that I review are games that I have purchased and are in my library. This particular game that I have right here, I actually won this game. You see, Chaz Marler from Paradise was having a contest, and I won. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that the only reason I won was because I'm a huge YouTube star. But I have to admit, that's absolutely true.
What?
I don't mean to brag, and I'm not making this up, but I have, get this, I have 85 subscribers.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, that is awesome. I mean, to put that in perspective, you remember the Chocolate Rain guy?
When chocolate rain, build a tent and say the world is dry.
Well, I mean, that guy, let's see, he only has, he has 1 million subscribers? Well, he's been at it longer than I have, so I guess I understand that. I've only been doing this for about a year or so. But, you know the guy, Ed Bassmaster? You know what I'm talking about?
You know, when I see a car like this, first thing I do is I say, would you look at this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, that guy, he only has 2 million subscribers. Are you kidding me? Wow.
Oh, would you look at that?
Please don't tell me that the person who put out the Nerds Who Can Beatbox videos have more subscribers than me. I mean...
Yeah, all right.
Okay, well, that was pretty amazing. I could see the 4 million subscribers there. Yep. All right, so maybe I'm not this great big YouTube star. That's fine. At least I have 0.3% of my views come from Croatia. Take that, Ed Bassmaster. Okay, so Rick and Morty Anatomy Park is based on an episode of Rick and Morty of the same name. The premise of this game is that you are building an anatomy theme park inside the body of a homeless Santa.
Really?
You're going to be taking turns laying tiles, building up this park, trying to gather points, and then trying to get out of this body before this homeless Santa has 2 heart attacks. Whoever has the most points wins the game. So why don't we take a look at the setup and how to play, and I'll give you my thoughts on the other side. Alright, to set up Rick and Morty's Anatomy Park, the first thing I do is each player is going to get one of their player cards. We're going to play 2-player as Rick and Morty. You're going to get the control cubes of that color. There are 5 of them, so each player will take those. And then you'll also get the standee for each of those players. You're going to find the entrance tile. Just place it into the center of the play area. You're then going to find all of the different diseases here. There are 6 of them, and tuberculosis and E. coli, that's these 2. They get the red bases, the rest of them just take black bases, and you'll just place those to the side of the board. Each player, we have a whole stack of these park tiles here. All right, and they come in a variety of colors here. Each player is going to get 3 of those. We're going to play the advanced game, so there are also a number of these master plan cards. Each player is going to get one of those. Each player is going to take their standee and place it onto the entrance tile. You have combat dice. Just put those by the board. You also have victory point tokens. They have 1 victory point on one side, 3 victory points on the other side. Just make a pile of those. All right, then you have the bodily reaction deck, and you're just going to cut that deck in half. All right, so you will just cut the deck in half. You're going to find the 2 heart attack cards into it, and you're just going to shuffle that into one half of the deck, like so. Yeah, place it down, place the other half on top. And now you are ready to play. All right, the object of the game is to score the most victory points. Now, to do that, you're going to be placing tiles into the park and playing focus group cards as well, and also trying to accomplish your master plan card that you have. But before we get into all that and how that works and how a round works, let's talk about some of the components. Now, first you have the player cards, and all the players have different and varying abilities. A player card consists of a movement, combat, and range. So, Morty here can move 3 tiles on his turn, has a combat value of 1, that means you'll be rolling 1 die when fighting off diseases. And you have a range of 3, so when you go to fight a disease, you can target one up to 3 tiles away. Rick here has a move of 3, combat 2 dice, and a range of 3 as well. You also have a special ability, so Morty's here is when you perform the draw action, you're going to draw 3 tiles instead and place one of them on the bottom of the tile deck. That'll make more sense here in a little bit. And then Rick says each time you place a face-up tile adjacent to a tile you moved this turn, you get to score an additional victory point. Okay, there are 6 different types of tiles in the game. You have these red, brown, and blue ones, and there are 3 different types of venues in this park. There are rides, food, and attraction. Now, the rides are not always red, food's not always brown, and so forth. In fact, you have another blue tile here that is also a ride. These are going to be the ways that you'll be scoring victory points when placing them into the park. This tile, when you can play it, is 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, plus some additional points depending on the type of tile that it is. These tiles, many times when you play them, are going to have requirements or actions that you'll need to do after placing them. For example, when you place this into the park, it requires this blue tile to be adjacent to both a brown and a ride tile, so like that. Playing this one makes you draw a bodily reaction card. And this one, you're going to place one of your control cubes that we talked about earlier. You'll place that on there, and then you will get an additional victory point for every blue tile that is adjacent to this one at the end of the game. Okay, there are also these yellow, green, and then focus group cards. The yellow are transit cards, and these cards will help you build transit systems around the park to help you get around the park more quickly. The exit, we'll talk about during the game when you want to get out of the park before the end of the game, but it has to do with the heart attack cards that we placed earlier. And then these focus group cards allow you to play them. They kind of give you an individual goal while you have these tiles in your hand to be able to place them to gain a specific benefit or maybe extra victory points. Okay, these master playing cards, each player is going to get one of these. Again, this is for the advanced game, which I recommend playing with. And basically, the park that you are trying to construct in this particular master plan, you are trying to get these blue tiles adjacent to a red tile. And for every time that you can get 2 blue next to one of the red, you're going to score an additional 2 victory points at the end of the game. All right, the object of the game is to get the most victory points. You're going to be doing that, like we said earlier, as placing tiles, playing focus group cards, controlling different tiles with your cubes, and then trying to get out of the park before the game ends. Now, there are 3 ways that the game can end. First, it can end by drawing heart attack cards from the bodily reaction deck. So if you draw the first card, there are 2 more rounds. Everybody, including the person who drew the card, gets 2 more turns, and then the game will end. However, if during those 2 rounds the second heart attack card is drawn, the game immediately ends. Another way that it can end is you have this draw pile. You have a large draw pile of these tiles. And when this draw pile runs out, you will take those that were discarded and shuffle them and create another deck. Once that runs out a second time, then the game immediately ends. All right, the way that a turn works is there are 3 phases, and you will complete all 3 phases before the next player starts. The first thing you're going to do is discard a tile. So we all start with, 3 tiles. Here are our 3 tiles. And you will discard 1 tile for every disease that you occupy a tile with. So obviously at the start of the game, this isn't going to happen, but as these diseases get added, if you are standing on a spot with one, you have to discard a tile for everyone that you share that tile with. Once you've done that, you're going to move on to the move phase. And during this, you can move your standee a number of spaces equal to its movement values. So we are playing as Morty, and we can move 3 spaces. However, again, we're at the start of the game. There are no tiles to move to. Another thing you can do as a move is, instead of moving yourself, you can move a disease 1 space. So this is a way to maybe go after another player by moving that disease either away from you or maybe onto someone else's space. All movement in the game, by the way, is orthogonally, no diagonal movement. All right, another thing that you can do with your movement instead of moving a disease or yourself is, let's say, just ignore the fact that these are not legal tile placements.
Correct.
Let's say you were standing here and you wanted to move a tile. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, for one reason is, maybe you are trying to fulfill something on a master plan. And also some tiles require tiles to be placed adjacent to other tiles that have a matching type or color. So those are some reasons why you would want to move a tile. So if you're standing on a tile here, you can move a tile orthogonally, like so, 1 space, all right, provided nothing is blocking its direction. So I could move this tile out to here if I wanted. I can move it up, down, left, or right, provided nothing is blocking it. Okay? So as a good example, let's say I had this tile that I wanted to play. It requires me to be, or the tile to be played next to 2 adjacent red tiles. So I have something like this here. So during my move action, maybe I move this tile like so. All right? Then during the 3rd phase, the action phase, this is when you can actually play tiles. I could now play this tile here because it now is adjacent to 2 red tiles, and I would score the 4 victory points. All right, after you have done your move phase, you now move on to the action phase where you get to choose one of the following actions. The first thing you can do is draw 2 tiles from the top of the stack. All right, so you would have the draw pile. You just take 2 and you put them into your hand. Now, by the end of your turn, you can never have more than 5 tiles, but that's how you can get additional tiles. The next thing you can do is place a tile into an empty space adjacent to where your character is. So, you know, I have these tiles here. All right, I could play this one. There's no requirement, and it allows me when I play it to draw a tile, so I could just play it there. I couldn't play this one because it requires this tile to be placed next to 2 adjacent red tiles, but there aren't any. And then this tile here is a transit tile that says that I'll score a victory point when I play it, but also tells me to take the top 2 tiles off the deck and place them face down in a straight line. And so if we do this, we get the 1 victory point, plus if we do it next to an entrance, we'll get an additional victory point. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to place it here. Now, when doing a transit tile, you have to be able to place the tiles that you're doing face down. You have to be able to first, the transit tile has to be away from the tile that you are playing. So, you know, I couldn't place something like this. They'd have to be going away from the transit tile, okay? But I could do something like this. Also, you can't have another tile that's, you know, blocking it. So if I had a tile out here for some strange reason, I couldn't do that because this is blocking it now. So I'd have to go a different direction, okay? So I'm going to place these 2 tiles like that. So I will get 1 victory point for playing the transit tile and an additional victory point because I played it next to a start tile. Now, transit tiles are neat because when you move onto a transit tile, it doesn't cost a movement space, all right? So when you have a transit tile, I can move all the way to the end for free, okay? That's a free, and then if I still had movement points left, then I could continue my movement. Now, let's say there wasn't a transit tile at the end of the line there. Stepping onto it is free. I can go as far as I want. I can stop here if I want, or here, but I can go all the way to here, and then for 1 movement point, I can step onto another tile. Okay, I need to back up for just a second. Something I forgot to mention about moving a tile. And that is, first of all, well, 2 things. 1, you can move a tile that you are actually standing on, okay? So you can do that, but whenever you do move a tile, you have to draw a bodily reaction card, such as this one, which is passing a kidney stone. Now, the rules state that you are supposed to act out what that would be like. That's kind of gross, but I guess you can do it if you want. And then it's going to either have a one-time effect or an ongoing. This one is ongoing, and it says until the end of your next turn, transit tiles cost 1 move to move on to. So we talked about transit, moving on to them was free. Well, now it isn't. And this is all players will have this going on during their turn. Okay, the next action that you can do is to play a focus group card. Now, when you play a focus group card, you will play it to and then meet the requirements on here. So this one is place a tile adjacent to a blue and a ride and your character, and then you will score 1 additional victory point and draw 2 tiles as your reward. Well, as you can see here, I have a blue and I have a ride, but I can't place a tile adjacent to it. So maybe earlier in my turn order during the move phase, let's say I moved this 1 tile like that, and now during the action phase, I play my focus group tile. You know, you don't play it into the board. And now I can play a tile. I will play Turtle Fiesta, which is adjacent to blue and a ride. It's going to score me 2 victory points, plus an additional 1 for meeting this. and then I draw 2 tiles. Additionally, this card says I have to draw a bodily reaction card, so I would have to do that and resolve it as well. Alright, the 4th type of action you can take is to exit the body here. And let's say Morty here earlier used his 2 of his 3 movements. He moved here, and now during the action phase you can exit the body. Now in a basic game, when you exit, you're going to pick up 3 victory points. However, you're not allowed to do any more actions during the game. You're basically done for the game. Now the reason you would want to exit is because when the first heart attack card is drawn, there are 2 more rounds to try and finish up your park, score as many points as you can and try to get out and gain those extra 3 points. And if you don't get out before those 2 turns, or if the second heart attack card is drawn, then you lose the opportunity to get those victory points. Also note that when you play this tile, you get to score 1 victory point, and if you played it before the first heart attack card was drawn, then you're going to get an additional victory point. Alright, the last type of action that you can do is to shoot at the diseases. Something to note about disease movement. When diseases move, if you use your movement action to move a disease, when they are moving, they ignore transit tiles, so they can only move once. The same thing goes with cards that tell you to move a disease. Again, they will ignore transit tiles. However, if Morty here wanted to try and shoot at this disease, now diseases come into play from drawing the bodily reaction cards. And so for example, this one is hepatitis A. And so when they come into play, when you've drawn this, you have to place it onto your tile. So you're going to want to try to move away or try to shoot that disease before your next turn. But let's say the disease was over here. Now, the disease has text at the bottom. It says place this on your character's tile, which we talked about. Then move each other character 1 space. Transit does not apply, so you couldn't move Rick here all the way here. You could move Rick 1 space. All right. When you defeat this disease, you will get a reward. You'll get 3 victory points and 1 draw tile. So the way combat works is you're looking at your combat at the bottom. This is going to tell you how many dice you get. Morty's not very good at this, so he's only getting 1 die to roll. All right. And you must roll a 6. Now, he has a range of 3. So you count the number of tiles and he can reach them. You can shoot around corners. You can shoot around multiple corners, all right? As long as you have 3 tiles. You cannot shoot through empty spaces to get there, but you can shoot around corners. So you roll a die, and if you roll a 6, you've defeated that disease. The card goes out of the game. You collect your reward. You're a happy camper. Okay, now if you rolled a 3, 4, or a 5, you will now move you may move the disease 1 tile for every 3, 4, or 5 that you rolled. So you could move it like that. Again, they ignore transit tiles. If you rolled a 1 or a 2, nothing happens, you missed, but the disease won't move. When you miss, you will have to draw a bodily reaction card and resolve it. After you've taken your action, that will end your turn. You discard down to 5 tiles if you happen to have more, and then the next player will continue. Play will continue round and round until the first heart attack card is drawn. That notifies all players there are 2 rounds left, and then after that, the game will end. However, if the second heart attack card is drawn before those 2 rounds are over, the game immediately ends. If the draw pile runs out twice, the game also ends. And after that, you're going to add up all your victory points. You're then, if you have any control cubes out on the board that allow you to get extra victory points at the end of the game, you'll get victory points for that. You're also going to take a look at your master plan. And like in this case, we needed red next to 2 brown. So we do have a brown with 2 red adjacent to it. So you would get 2 extra victory points for that. Whoever has the most victory points is the winner of the game. Okay, so that is Rick and Morty Anatomy Park. Now, I have to say, going into the game, my expectations weren't very high for it. I'd never seen an episode of Rick and Morty. I now have seen a half of episode. I did check out this one online just to kind of get an idea of what the show was like. And it is part of the Adult Swim line of animation. So in the box here, it does say that it's for 18 plus, and I would agree. There are some mature themes in it, especially with some of the diseases that are in the game. But like I said, I didn't have a high expectations, and the reason for that is because I thought, well, you know, you're just slapping a theme or an IP, an intellectual property, on top of a tile laying game as kind of a cash grab for, you know, people who enjoy the show. But I have to say, after playing the game, I was pleasantly surprised. The tile laying mechanic in the game isn't unlike many others. However, there are some interesting choices that you have to make. You do have the ability to create the kind of the subways throughout the park, but in addition to that, for me, the most interesting mechanic is moving the tiles, being on a tile and being able to move one that you're adjacent to, so that it can help you set up the combo that you need to place another tile down. And then if you're playing with the advanced variant and trying to get, you know, certain patterns or colors together to score extra points, there is a lot of back and forth and tug of war, you know, between the different players trying to set up that perfect combo for you and to set up the park while they're also trying to do the same thing. Many times you'll be standing on a tile waiting for your next turn to be able to move something, and someone else comes in, moves it away from you. Again, I found that to be very interesting. Now, the components of the game are actually pretty good. The tiles are thick, they're easy to read. The artwork on them, I mean, let's face it, there are some that are pretty grotesque, but overall the artwork's pretty good. It's just not my cup of tea. You have the cards in the game, which are decent quality. You have the different bodily reaction cards that are in there. And again, there are some that are just really gross or inappropriate, however you want to look at it. But you know that if you're a fan of the show, you kind of know that going in. So if you haven't seen it and you've been interested in this game, just know that going in. Now, the game's not too difficult to teach. I think the whole movement, you know, being able to move and then move tiles as well, and trying to show people how to, you know, set up that combo if your tile requires two different things and how that actually works is probably the most difficult thing to explain. But overall, it's pretty quick to learn. And again, I found the game interesting. Now, as far as replayability, you know, as I played this, you know, the first couple of times, it does elicit laughter from the different bodily reactions and the different tiles that are out there and reading through them. But then after a while, that novelty of it goes away. So does the game have a strong enough base? Aside from that, well, yes. I go back to, if you like tile laying games, you might enjoy this because of a couple of unique mechanics that are built into it. But for me, it's not really my cup of tea as far as the theme, so I take that into account. Yeah, it was funny the first couple of times that I played it, but then it's just kind of like, oh yeah, we got this card again. So I think with the right crowd, you know, and fans of this game, I think they're really going to enjoy this. For me, I give this game a 6. Now, if you like this video, please take a moment to hit the like button below, subscribe to our channel, check out our other great content, and once again, I thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for visiting the Arch Gaming Network. For more great content, check us out at archgamingnetwork.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook.